9,996, 9,997, 98, 99. 10,000! Woo! 10,000 miles on the 2024 R3. Here we are. It's not going to be so much about the R3 in particular, though I'll talk about that some. It's just a lot of things to be said about 10,000 miles on a motorcycle. I'm going to do my best, but some of the things on a motorcycle just have to experience for yourself. It's so hard to fully communicate what it's like being on one of these and what it's like kind of doing this day to day, going to work, getting your groceries, going for joyrides. I mean, there have been a few times where I've taken a car for joyrides, but on my motorcycle, it's like every day. Before I got a motorcycle, I loved watching motovloggers and dreaming about the day that I would finally have one. And it feels good to give back to the community like that. So if that's you, and you're wondering what it's like, and you're waiting for the day that you finally get a motorcycle for yourself, this is for you. And I hope that all that works out for you. One thing that can be said about motorcycling is it's efficient. You're one person on a small vehicle, you don't take up very much space, and you get awesome gas mileage. This one, I've been getting around 50 miles to the gallon. You're so exposed, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Sometimes you're always picking up smells. Not always good smells. Like some rivers just kind of surprise me how bad they smell. Everybody's getting their Christmas trees. Speaking of gas, and you fill up so quick. If you're filling up a car, you're kind of sitting there for a little while, but on a motorcycle, if you're not paying attention, it'll come out the top. Boop. Almost like that. And one of the kind of ironic things about it is that it's caused me to slow down a little bit, because it takes time to gather your gear and put it on, especially in the winter where you're wearing so many layers. And that preparation is when you think of going somewhere, say, okay, I want to get groceries. You go, put on your helmet, gloves, boots, whatever else, jacket, pants, and then you can begin your errands. It's like this pre-ritual. And then when you get there, take your helmet off, take the earplugs out, hang them up on your handlebar, and then you can proceed into the store. And then say you get to a friend's house, you arrive, and you look like you just came in from the frigid north, and you have to take a second. You're chatting with them, you're taking your helmet off, you're saying, oh, 1 second, I have earplugs in. You're taking your earplugs out so you can hear them, and then you're finding a place to put everything. It's just this ritual that happens, and it's necessary, and it causes you to slow down, because if you rush through it, like rush, I need to get here, then like you won't enjoy wearing the gear and riding the motorcycle. And so in that way, it's helped me to slow down, which I found ironic. Another thing is going to meets, and not only motorcycle meets, like organized events, but just meeting people out on the road. I've met several people who I just kind of bumped into / tracked down because I wanted to talk to them. And now I have riding buddies that I can go out with whenever. So it's a really cool community in that I get excited whenever I see somebody else on a sport bike, because I know that it's interesting, the different groups of people that are attracted to the different types of motorcycles. And I feel like sport bikes especially, it's like, oh, you ride a sport bike, let's ride together. Or just kind of that there's kind of that playfulness to people who ride sport bikes, I think, no matter the age. And since it's a passion, when you show up to a bike meet, it's almost like you already know everybody, because everybody's there to share their joy and passion of motorcycles. And it's so easy to strike up conversations with people. Say, oh, like, what kind of tires are you running? What tunes do you have? I like that color. All the modifications that people do. How long you've been riding. And it's just so cool. It's so easy to connect with people. And I have found no better way to de-stress after work than to immediately, like, leave the office, jump on my motorcycle in the parking lot. It's like stress immediately starts melting away. Because it's just so hard to be in a bad mood on a motorcycle with the leaning, and you're so exposed. You have to be so present, and everything is so raw about it. Your field of view, you don't have A-pillars in your view like you would in a car. You can see much clearer, and you're just in it. You're in the world, experiencing it, feeling the wind, smelling the smells, feeling the positive and negative G-forces. It's just such a great experience. Why did you turn like that? It's the range. And that's another thing. When you're on a motorcycle, you're not dealing with the radio, you're not dealing with climate control, you're not adjusting your seat, you're not, you can't afford to be distracted because you're constantly keeping your balance, yeah. But there's just so much to take in and process when it comes to traffic and navigating the road, watching for animals. I've found that you're less predisposed to zoning out and just kind of sitting there like you are in a car. Because it's just, and there's a lot of technique to it. You're thinking about handlebar grips, thinking about posture, thinking about where your feet are on the pegs, from a resting position to a shifting and braking position. And there's just so much to think about. And getting groceries. I think getting groceries on a motorcycle is underrated. Because when I've got my backpack on, I'm not thinking about getting that bag of chips that's 99% air. That's just a poor use of space. I need to cram some protein in there, some healthy carbs. So going grocery shopping with a limited amount of cargo space can actually help you eat healthier, because you're looking at all the snacks and you're looking at your bag and you're calculating how much more space you have in your backpack, which ultimately I think leads to healthier decisions, because you're opting for the protein and the fruits and the veggies instead of candies and the cookies. Sometimes I find a little room to stash some cookies in there, but that's been an unexpected side effect I've found. And concerning the R3 in particular, the R3 is known as a beginner bike. And sure, you shouldn't start out, I don't think you should start out on 1,000 cc's. There have been a few, when I first got this bike, there have been a few cases where I was glad I didn't have more power. And that's where I think the R3 really shines, and the lower displacement bikes in general. But I think to call the R3 a beginner bike kind of puts it in a box, because this is a great all-around motorcycle that I think anybody can enjoy. There's nothing wrong with enjoying an R3 or a lower displacement bike throughout your entire motorcycling career. I think it would be a great single bike. If you had to pick one bike, I think this is fantastic. Now, disclaimer, I've never been on the higher displacement bikes. And maybe that's why I am able to appreciate it so much. Because this bike has done everything I've asked it to. It's a 2-cylinder, and it takes interstate speeds just fine. And no problems passing. It's just not as fast as some other bikes might be. But as far as kind of pushing the lower displacement bikes to the side as beginner bikes and fully moving on, you know, I'm a big kid now. I think that does an injustice to these bikes because they're such capable machines. And I mean, reliability wise, you know, 10,033 miles, and I've basically done nothing more than oil changes. I'm trying to think of any actual, like I've lubed a few of the joints, and yeah, that's about it. I keep the chain healthy, I clean it and I lube it regularly, and I change the oil when it needs changing. And here I am, 10,000 miles in, having a blast. Of the very few cons I can think of, and none of them are even major, one is the headlight. And this might be universal for all fixed fairing bikes, but the headlight leaves a lot to be desired at night. And I get the feeling that I mean, it's a motorcycle, you only have so much room for lights. But when you're turning into a corner, when that light beam stops, you're kind of trusting to know the road that you're on, because it doesn't really go past that hard line to give you a wide view. The only other thing is that when this has already been warmed up and it's just kind of gotten to operating temperature, and then I shut it down, like to get gas, or say I forgot something and ran back in the house, when I go to start it up, every once in a while, when I give it throttle, it'll bog down really easy. But then it'll, you know, it bogs down and stalls, but then I can immediately start it back up. So that really hasn't been a big thing. As far as tires, I just changed the rear. The front is the original, and it looks fine. It's starting to show some wear, so I'm thinking about changing it out soonish. But it's still got some life in it. And for the rear, I changed it out because it was starting to show that, and I just changed it out maybe 1,000 miles ago. It was starting to show the next layer of the tire. So got 9,000 miles out of it. As far as power goes, I'll say this: you won't be pulling any power wheelies, accidental or otherwise. I also like that it's simple. I like that there's not Bluetooth. I like this simple display. It's just, it doesn't give you all that much to think about. It does have ABS, but it's just simple. It's 2 cylinders. It's easy to change the oil. Not that many electronics. Let's check out the gravel road. Storage, I just keep my registration there. You might be able to fit a sandwich. So yeah, that's been my 10,000 mile experience after a hiatus of about 10 years. So let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to the next time.